I found my wife's photo album and now I'm tempted to cheat on her. My wife, Isabel, and I met because of a murder in our freshman year at college. Her dorm had been blocked by the cops because a girl we both knew had been found stabbed 42 times in her bed. The killer has taken her eyes, mouth, nose with him. The strangest thing was that not one person in that crowded dorm heard her scream. I was there for her. When the police announced they were trying to search for the killer but had no leads, he struck again a few towns over, exact same mo and then again a town over. From there the press began to call him the college butcher. Isabel spent more time at my room after that. It was perfect, too perfect. And I should have been smarter, wiser. But I was young, stupid, and deeply in love. We got married a few years after college, after I had got a job as a software developer, and she had got a job working as a teacher at the local high school. We bought a house in a quiet, safe neighborhood, in a quiet, safe town, and for a while everything seemed so good. For 10 whole years, everything has been good. Until 3 weeks ago, when I decided to clear out the attic because I could swear I heard something skittering up there. When I was getting ready to leave in the morning, thinking it was mice or rats, I told Isabel in the kitchen that night while she was adding the finishing touches to the bolognese, and I was pouring us a couple of glasses of wine. I think there's something in our attic, I said casually as I passed her the glass of wine. I'm going to go give it a clear out and see if it's a rat or something. When she said nothing, I looked at her face. It was completely pale, and she was staring at me with something I could not place in her eyes. It wasn't fear, it was something else. Don't go up there, I'll deal with it. I frowned. I really think it's something small, and I've been wanting to clean up that place for a while. Let me deal with it. She stared at me then, and a sort of involuntary shudder went up my spine. Jack, do not go up there. Promise me. I nodded slowly, confused. We respected and loved each other, and I wouldn't want to hurt her in any way. And given how stressed she was, I knew I had to listen to her, but she may as well have dangled a chocolate chip cookie in front of my face and told me not to ever touch it. So I waited until she left for work one morning and went up there. The attic was dark, but we had a light in the middle of the room. Regardless, I had my phone's torch I could rely on since ours was an older house. We had actual stairs leading up to the attic as opposed to a ladder. And when I walked to the end of the hallway and opened the door that led to the attic, I swore I heard a creak at the top of the stairs. The kind of creak only a foot can make when it lands on a faulty floorboard. The hair at the back of my neck stood up as though a cold draft had blown into the hall. I squinted into the darkness at the top of the stairs and softly asked hello. As the moments passed, rationality caught up with me. How stupid was I to think there was something up there? Annoyed at myself, I climbed, grasped my phone, and flicked the torch, and with more confidence than I truly possessed, I walked up the stairs, listening to each stair creak as I did. The attic was creepier than I remembered it. It was actually a space I had planned to convert into a game room of sorts, but Isabel had talked me out of it and honestly, over the years I had forgotten how big it was. It was your average attic in many ways. Dusty wooden floors, a small window at the end of the room overlooking the neighborhood, but it was spacious. Sure, it held all our old junk, but even so the boxes and the couple of pieces of old furniture took up such little space at the far end of the room. I remember thinking how nice skylights would be in the sloping ceiling. Why had Isabel, who was so organized and wanted all the rooms in the house to be used, so keen to leave this? As it was? A slight unease had started to make its way around the corners of my mind. As if on autopilot, I walked to the end of the attic where the 5 boxes which contained Isabel's things were lying. Part of me was screaming that this was a massive invasion of her privacy, but I didn't care by that point. I wanted to see what was in there that was making my wife act so strange about this particular the room. I sat cross-legged on the dusty floor and pulled the first box to me, opening it up. The first box was just some old clothes that she had kept for sentimental value. When I reached the third box, something in me hesitated. I think a part of me knew that my life was going to change after I opened this box. Carefully, I unsealed the box and looked inside and a sigh of relief overcame me. It was just framed photographs and a photo album. I smiled and lifted the first one, Isabel and her sisters laughing as children at her 4th birthday. Some were of her parents and others of us. Then something struck me. Why hadn't she put these photos up downstairs? That weird chill was back. The box only held the large brown leather photo album now and my heart racing. I opened it to its first page. It was a large black and white photo of a small girl on a swing facing away from the camera. That in itself was creepy, but the creepiest thing about the photo was another little girl in a white dress who was standing at the edge of the woods looking at the girl on the swing. It was almost as if she was looking at me through the photo. The next page had the same little girl on the swing, playing on the jungle gym, smiling as she swung from the bars. Behind her, the strange little girl stood, watching her every move, her eyes cold, her mouth a thin line, page after page of this little girl living her life, and the strange girl standing on the edges, watching her. As the girl grew up, I recognized her to be Isabel, and the girl watching her looked like her, the darker, angrier version of her. I swallowed hard, watching my wife's doppelganger grow closer, seeing photos of her in my room with a shadow of herself. Watching her. My vision swam and I felt sick. Snapping the album shut, I wedged it under my arm and fled the attic, taking the stairs 2 steps at a time, down from the attic. As I closed the door and leaned my head against it. It took a slow, shuddering breath. What the fuck was going on that evening? I waited for my wife to come home at the kitchen table, nursing my strongest whiskey in my hand as she walked in through the kitchen door. "Hi, hon." She greeted me with a kiss and dumping the shopping bags full of groceries on the table. "How was your day?" I paused and slowly cleared my throat. "I found it, Isabel." She was pulling the milk out and was about to turn to the fridge to stack it when I said this. She frowned, putting the milk down on the table. "What do you mean?" I quietly lifted the album off my lap and put it on the table. "This is why you didn't want me to go into the attic, right?" The words came out harsher than I intended them to. She looked at the album and her face turns pale, as though she has seen a ghost. But when she looks at me, she says, "I've never seen that before in my life," and without another word, walks out of the room and chased after her. "Isabel, who is the girl in this? Look at me when I'm talking to you." I grasped her arm and turned her towards me. She slapped me hard across my face. My wife, who wouldn't even raise her voice at our cat when he scratched her, slapped me. I watched in open-mouthed shock as she stormed up the stairs in your bedroom and slammed the door. The album was still in my hand, the weight of it an omen. And that's when I heard it again. The skittering I had been hearing from the attic, except now it sounded like it was coming from our bedroom. "What the fuck?" I muttered. That's when the scraping started. It sounded like someone was very slowly clawing at the floorboards above me. My heart began to race as I slowly looked at the darkness at the top of the stairs. Why hasn't she switched the lights on when she went up there? "Isabel." I call it, my voice hoarse it with fear. At first there was nothing, but then I heard it. "Isabel." A high-pitched voice marked from the darkness. My blood ran cold. I was terrified, but the thought that my wife could be in danger was more overpowering. I ran up the stairs to our bedroom door. I found it wide open, with no trace of my wife inside. "Is Isabel?" I asked hesitantly as I looked around the empty bedroom. That's when I felt it, a cold hand grabbing my ankle from under the bed. I screamed and pulled myself out of its grasp, stumbling backwards until I fell against Isabel. She grabbed my hand and dragged me down the stairs. "I told you not to go into the attic." She sobbed as she dragged me to the front door. "Now you've let her out. You've let her into our lives." As we got outside, she rushed to the car. "Hurry up before she finds us." I jumped into the seat without saying a word. "Isabel, what the hell is going on?" She started the car and we zipped out of the driveway. I could see her knuckles were white from gripping the steering wheel so hard. She finally spoke, her eyes focused on the road. "She's always been there, always angry. You see, I'm the one who got to live." "What?" I was more confused than ever. "I'm a twin, Jack," she said to me quietly. "I'm the twin that survived while she died in the womb." I looked at her, confused. "So she's what?" "She's an evil spirit who wants a chance to live. And ever since I was born, she's been eating away at my life." That album was a way to trap her. Those photos were like talismans. I used to keep her in there, every single physical piece of evidence she exists. When we were in college and that awful thing happened, I went to a professional. She helped me trap her. And then I opened up the album and let her out. I said softly. She nodded, a resigned sigh, escaping her lips. "She wants to be me. You understand? She won't stop until she has absorbed all of me." I was quiet. That's when I saw the movement in the mirror. Turning around, I saw the thing that wanted to be my wife sitting there, grinning at me. I yelled. Isabel slammed on the brakes. We didn't even see that truck coming. We didn't have a chance. When I woke up at hospital later, a policeman was standing next to me, looking grim. I clearly tried to get up, but my whole body felt like a bruise and I fell back onto the bed, breathing hard. "Isabel," I whispered. Every part of my body hurt. "Where was my wife, Mr. Taylor?" The policeman said. "I am sorry to inform you that your wife was killed in the accident." The news hit me like a punch in the face. "No." I strangled back. "A saw." "No, no, no, no. Sir, I am sorry for your loss, but you are going to need to answer some questions for us." The police officer pulled up a file and looked at me carefully. I nodded through the tears running down my face. "We would like to know why your DNA has showed up in a string of murder cases. Are you familiar with the case of the college butcher?"